Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am so happy you are here today. I really want to be a blue light glasses girly, but it's not doing what I want it to do. For those that have been here for a little minute, this title might give you a little deja vu. You're thinking, this sounds a little familiar.
Did that sound familiar to you? Because that sounds really familiar to me. Oh my God.
I wanted to give some love to my second favorite series on my channel, which was my Music of the 2010 series. And so many of y'all loved it the first time around, but there's lots of people that have not seen the masterpiece because it got demonetized the first time. YouTube, count your days. So I am putting all of those videos back to back here. This is a full-length film. This is going to be a full-fledged experience of Music of the 2010. So sit back, put your nostalgia hat on, and I hope you enjoy the video. Mwah. Part 1, 2010 to 2013. As we turned into the new decade, music was starting to see a bit of a shift. We were turning from the crunk club hip hop and R&B music to a more electronic dance sound. But before we talk about that, we have to talk about where this sound's popularity came from: Britney Spears. 2007 was one of the most difficult years of Britney's life. The paparazzi was harassing her for dear life, her loser ex-husband was trying to take her kids away, and the conservatorship was right around the corner. She could have just sat back and let shit happen, but instead, she partied her ass off with Paris Hilton, and that led us to the pop Bible, Blackout. Britney was inspired to make Blackout from all of the events happening in her life, but even more from the music she was partying to in the clubs of LA. The album was way ahead of its time, having influences of crunk, Eurodance, dance pop, and synth pop. This is a top 3 Britney album. I dare you to try not to get up and dance when this album comes on. Oh, I love that song. I play it like 10 times a week. This album would become the catalyst for what pop music would sound like not even 2.5 years later, because in comes Miss Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga makes her debut with The Fame in late 2008, fully immersing herself into that electro pop sound, but making it even more. She had a blunt bang platinum blonde wig and a dream. This era was so huge that it extended to the next year with the reissue of The Fame Monster in 2009. We had singles like Just Dance, Paparazzi, Telephone, and Bad Romance. You could not go anywhere without hearing these songs. It was an album all about love, sex, and partying all night, which was very important to the young adults of the time. This album was very important as it was one of the most popular albums of the late 2000s to be overtly sexual in nature, which would become the norm within the next couple of years. Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. I want to take a ride on your disco stick. Kelly Rowland also got a head start on the Euro dance craze way before it was massively popular in the US, with hits all across Europe like When Love Takes Over with David Guetta. She was fully taking over the clubs there. Towards the end of the late 2000s, this new dance sound was emerging that was becoming really popular and sounded almost futuristic, and one of the most popular albums to completely capture that essence was The End by the Black Eyed Peas in 2009. Up to this point, the Black Eyed Peas were known for incorporating pop into their more hip-hop sounding albums, but this was a complete 180 for them. EDM? Where did that come from? Critics and fans heavily criticized this album for being a sellout and conforming to the new wave of popular music rather than pushing the envelope of what they were good at. Even with all that, the album proved to be a mega success, giving us hits like I'm a Bee, I Got a Feeling, and Boom Boom Pow. I'm a B, rockin' there, Apple G, B infinite, BEP, we definite. Oh, I envy those that got to party their ass off to this. If you did, let me know how that experience was. This is just the beginning of what mainstream music would sound like, as it proved to be very popular, and it would take us to the beginning of 2010. Right at the beginning of January 2010, we get one of the raunchiest pop debuts to come, Animal by Kesha. This was a true 2010s time capsule, as it fully captures the dance club craze that was very popular at that time, which is just about leaving your cares at home, being young, and having a good time. This album was full still electro pop at its core, but having a more sleazy feeling to it that made it so scandalous at the time. Kesha's start came from Flo Rida's single Right Round that she was featured on, and by then electro pop inspired songs were pretty popular. So TikTok being her first single was nothing short of genius. It was genius for Kesha's talent and charisma, because I'm not giving any credit to Dr. Loser. This album was an incredible success, going multi-platinum and giving us hits like TikTok, Your Love Is My Drug, and yes, when the rap part of that song comes on, I go crazy. But I don't hear the people talking enough about Take It Off. This album was just pure, sleazy, white girl wasted, dancey fun. I also need to give a shout out to Dancing with Tears in My Eyes. You moved me in ways no other song could. She then comes out later that year with Cannibal, her first EP, which may or may not have been a loophole for Dr. Loser to keep her in his contract for longer, but we move. She was officially the it girl of 2010 because the hits from this EP, Blow and We Are Who We Are, dominated on the charts for weeks. This sound was now incredibly popular, and the standard of pop music in 2010 was about making it as much of a party anthem as possible. Huge R&B acts like Usher started playing around with this sound with his songs Oh My Gosh, with Will I Am, More, and DJ got us falling in love with Pitbull. If I hear this song at the club, everyone move out the way. Pitbull was very important to the dance club music of the early 2010s, but that's more starting in like 2011, so we'll get there in a minute. But we cannot go on without talking about one of the queens of fun EDM, pop, and dance music while also pushing boundaries, Rihanna. And if I say this song is top 10 in her discography, I would be correct. That year she released Loud, and it was one of her biggest eras up to that point. We had the singles Only Girl in the World, What's My Name, Raining Men, and that was all just in 2010. Man Down, California King Bed, Cheers, and S&M were all released the following year. Cheers to the freaking weekend, cheers to that, yay. And how could we forget about the iconic S&M remix with the Britney Spears? Scream mercy, it's your time to hurt me. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Would it be a crime if I said I listened to this version more? Rihanna was an it girl, but this album proved that she could pretty much do any genre of music that she wanted and make them into hits. 2010 was also the year of an album from an artist that would forever change the music industry. Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday. Another huge album full of hits, including Moment for Life, which would be the start of Nicki's major collabs with male rappers, Fly with Rihanna, and Your Love. But the most important song in terms of success and impact was for sure Super Bass. The way I used to play this song on Just Dance and win every single time, yup, you couldn't tell me anything. This album was a blend of rap and pop in the most girliest way possible, and it made it so fun. Nicki during this era was her most outlandish and avant-garde that she had ever been. And that's because the people knew how to have fun back then. This album showed a different trend of 2010s music that was also becoming popular, which was more bubblegum pop and power pop. And what album replicated that essence to a T? Teenage Dream. If we want to talk about perfect pop eras, this one will always be at the top of that list. This album was a worldwide international success, and the era lasted for nearly 2 years. As it should. It was the most camp, colorful, in-your-face era possible, and it topped the charts for weeks. The hits from this album are a list all on its own, so here we go. California Girls. Teenage Dream that a certain Darren Criss from Glee would make iconic yet again. The outsider/band of misfits anthem Firework, E.T., a Halloween party staple, and the party anthem of the year, Last Friday Night, with Rebecca Black making an appearance in the music video. God, I love the year 2011. But we cannot forget about Wide Awake from Teenage Dream: The Complete Confection and her purple hair in the music video. If there was any way I could describe this era, it would be rainbow wigs, because you could not catch Katy Perry on the street in a normal colored wig. That's boring. Another album that was peak 2010s fun pop but didn't push the envelope too much was Doo-Wops and Hooligans by Bruno Mars.
Today I don't feel like doing anything.
To this day, this music video is one of the most randomest ones to ever exist, but I love Bruno, so I'm not gonna complain. This was Bruno's debut year as a solo artist, so he came out the gate fighting for his life. While this album was more genre bending than most that year, as it had tones of reggae and R&B, because let's not get it twisted, Bruno Mars is a musical genius. He has an ear that most people would kill for. It was definitely the more generic power pop songs that became really popular, like Grenade. My experience with this song is a little bit interesting because sometime after it was released, a pre-pop sensation Ariana Grande made a cover of this song. And best believe I downloaded it to my MP3 player and played it over and over and over again, so much so that I forgot Bruno had even put it out. Switching gears a little bit, 2010 was also the year of boy and girl groups kind of resurging in popularity. In 2009, a little band called Big Time Rush was making waves in the American market and had a hit TV show.
Yeah, just give me a minute and the song will come to me. We don't have a minute!
But nothing would prepare us for the force the UK was cooking up, One Direction. They released their iconic debut single, What Makes You Beautiful.
Baby,
and nothing was ever the same again. Their first album, Up All Night, comes out and they're the new teen heartthrobs of the decade and had girls pulling their hair out at the sight of them. They were the epitome of the boy next door kind of essence that made them super appealing to teen girls, and clearly groups were now in again. Going into 2011, Little Mix would form and debut their album DNA, also to worldwide success, and as you can tell, we are very much mixers over here. Wings was not only the soundtrack to my life, but it was also used in multiple commercials that made it practically inescapable. Fifth Harmony also falls into this umbrella, but they didn't debut really till about 2013, and music had shifted a bit by then, but they still need to be mentioned. By 2011, the electro pop sound that was popular in 2010 kind of morphed into a more EDM and club sound. And one of the first pop stars to make a full album of this was yet again Britney Spears with Femme Fatale. I actively remember my first interaction with this song. I was about 10, jumping on a trampoline, listening to the radio, and I hear this song, and it forever changes my life. It was also in that trampoline session that Airplanes by B.O.B. and Hayley Williams came on, so that's about as 2011 as a radio station could get. The Femme Fatale era also gave us one of the most chaotic and iconic collabs with the other it girls of 2010, the Till the World Ends remix with Kesha and the Nicki Minaj. If you have not listened to this version of the song, I promise you, your life is not complete. Leave this video and go listen to it immediately. It was very apparent that pop music was changing from strictly getting drunk off your ass vibes to a more party like it's your last day on earth vibes. Because there were so many songs and albums with this kind of messaging, but they still made it fun for the club. And this may or may not have been due to the Mayan calendar saying the world was going to end in 2012, and we all kind of believed it, so we might as well have had a good time. And the artist most responsible for us partying to this kind of music was Pitbull. 2011 was really the start of Pitbull being the king of club party anthems because there was no way you could go about your life not hearing his songs at least 20 times. The club banger of the year without a doubt goes to On the Floor by J-Lo and Pitbull. Listen, I know it's popular to hate on J-Lo now, but we have to give her her 10s for this song right here. My own personal favorite Pitbull hit from that year is definitely Give Me Everything with him and Neo.
Grab somebody sexy, tell 'em, hey.
One word for this song is euphoric. Neo and Pitbull really were just an underrated duo because every single time they would come together on a song, it was always just good vibes. They would come together again to collaborate on Time of Our Lives in 2014, which also had that escapism, party like it's your last day on earth vibes, which is what made this time period just so fun. Another artist to capitalize on this sound was none other than Nicki Minaj. It wasn't enough for her to give us an iconic album to show off her bars and her pen, but she also wanted to give us one that we can party to as well. And yes, I am very much talking about Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded. The hits here are something only a true genius could come up with. Obviously, we had the hit Starships, Va Va Voom, and Pound the Alarm. That beat drop is so obnoxious that it's physically impossible for you to not shimmy your shoulder when that song is playing. However, Bees in the Trap was a hit for the streets and will always remain a personal favorite of mine. 2011 was also a really big year for Drake because he released Take Care that year and had men and women in the club, but also in their feelings. The title track Take Care with Rihanna was their second time collaborating together. And one thing I will say, them two together on a song, nothing but hits. But the cultural impact that the motto had on the youth is something that needs to be studied religiously. Not only did he have kids running up and down the street saying YOLO to their parents, there were many instances where this saying was written into TV shows. It was absolute madness. 2011 was also a really weird time because the songs that were popular were completely due to the fact that people were drunk 90% of the time, but hey, I live for fun. So what kind of a person would I be if I didn't mention the party duo LMFAO? Party rock anthem was a house party staple, and frankly, it should still be to this day. The crazy outfit colors, the oversized glasses. God, I love 2011. We cannot close out 2011 without talking about one of the most randomest occurrences to happen in modern pop culture. And yes, I am talking about Friday by Rebecca Black. The internet really is a crazy thing because how did a song like this get millions of views on YouTube and become one of the biggest anomalies in pop music? Listen, I like the song. I thought it was cute and fun. Granted, I was only 10, but I still appreciated the artistry of making a song to the greatest day on earth to a child, Friday. I would say that by 2012, EDM infused into pop music was officially the standard because literally everyone was doing it up to this point, and it gave us some of the best songs of the decade. What kind of a person would I be if I didn't discuss one of the best examples of this, Where Have You Been by Rihanna? By 2012, Rihanna had pretty much done everything, so she thought, why not let me do EDM and do it better than everyone else? 2012 also gifted us with one of the loudest in-your-face songs, fully pumped with EDM, Titanium.
Fire away, ricochet, you take your aim.
You can sing.
I remember I was in 6th grade when this song came out, and my school had a little talent show, and some girl thought it was a good idea to sing this song, and upon trying to hit those notes in the chorus, emphasis on trying, all of us are sitting here like, Well, why do we have to sit here and suffer? It wasn't all bad though, because 2012 gave us one of the best pop songs to ever exist and a top 10 pop collaboration, Beauty and a Beat, with Justin Bieber and Nicki Minaj. Ooh, the flavor this song has. How has it been over 10 years since this song was released and I listened to it as if it came out yesterday? The music video for this song is peak 2012 behavior. This is what I imagined a house party to be like in the summertime, and I fully expected this as an adult. So imagine my surprise when I'm old enough to club and I get there and everyone's just standing around looking at each other. I'm sick. Why can't we party like it's 3012 tonight? While we got amazing songs in 2012, it was also the year that everyone was kind of tolerant of Maroon 5 because they had given us bangers like Misery and moves like Jagger, but then they also gave us this. I'm at a payphone trying to go home. I don't care what any of y'all say, I still shake when I hear this song, and it's because I'm scared to relive it again. 2012 also gave us probably the start of the many viral dance challenges that would come in the later 2010s, but the ones that definitely started it off were the Harlem Shake and Gangnam Style. While Gangnam Style was just a pop culture phenomenon that completely took over the globe, there was something so juvenile about the Harlem Shake. This dance had mostly teens and college kids looking like they were getting electrocuted, all in the name of fun. And I loved every single minute of it. I have been nonstop talking about the iconic songs of 2012, but the albums we got too, we really used to be a society because it was just never-ending good music. One album that was not only one of the biggest eras of 2012, but was also completely ahead of its time was Unorthodox Jukebox by Bruno Mars. If we really want to talk about a perfect album era, this is it. Locked Out of Heaven is one of those songs I play once a week, every week, just to lift up my spirits and remind myself of my teenage years. That's how good it is. This album was a little bit jarring for the time because Bruno was talking about getting it on quite explicitly. 11-year-old me was shook when I heard Gorilla for the first time, but I haven't stopped listening to it since then. Unapologetic by Rihanna also came out that year, and while it wasn't as smash-topping as Loud, it was definitely her most genre-bending, braggadocious, bad bitch era yet. She had the pop hits like Diamond, which was definitely run into the ground like any other big Rihanna song. Then she also gave us the strip club banger, Pour It Up. But I Need the People to Wake Up and Realize that Fresh Out the Runway is the best song on the album. I don't make the rules here. 2012 obviously wouldn't be 2012 without discussing one of the biggest shifts in pop music, Red by Taylor Swift. Now, before we begin, I am not a Swiftie, so do not expect for me to talk about this woman for more than a minute. Red forever changed the landscape of the music industry, but not because of the songs themselves, but what this album represented, and it shifted history. This album was a turning point from Taylor just being another country girl to one of modern day's top pop girls, which then led to Twitter being the fighting ground for Swifties to attack nearly anyone that dared to challenge Taylor, which also then led to the many standards that Ticketmaster started to change because her Eras tour was in such high demand and scalpers were ready to scam and the people couldn't get her tickets. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For the album in of itself, there were a couple of hit songs that I admit I do enjoy. I Knew You Were Trouble is the dubstep masterpiece I didn't know I needed in my life. From the years 2011 to 2013, we were also in this mode where a bunch of ballads were being released all at the same time and they were all topping the charts.
Stand in your arms without falling to your feet.
Stay Stay by Rihanna and When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars were fighting each other on the charts for the top sad song of the year, and I was tired of hearing them. But nothing prepared me for all of me taking away my youth. I'm being so serious, that song aged me like 5 years and I'm still scarred from it. 2013 saw the biggest shift in music that I'm not sure any of us were expecting. It was the year that trap music, or at least trap-inspired production, started becoming the new popular sound. And one of the first pop artists to fully capitalize on this sound was Miley Cyrus with Bangers. The chaos she unleashed when she released this album is something that also needs to be studied. I remember watching the We Can't Stop music video for the first time and silently crying to myself because Hannah Montana was really gone. But by the time Wrecking Ball came out, I was okay because what a banger that was. This time period was really weird because Miley was trying really hard to shed her child star image that she twerked on the VMA stage while holding a foam finger. Looking back on it, she was simply trying to bring back entertainment, and we thank her for it. Was this album a product of its time?
Party ain't nothing but a party when you party every day. It ain't nothing but a party. Love, money, party.
I would say so, yes. But there are some amazing songs on here too. Going back to We Can't Stop, there's something so sad but euphoric about it that I want to have my head out in a sunroof while riding down the highway. That year was also the drop of probably the most iconic album in modern history, Beyonce's Self-Titled. There was no notice. She just released it randomly on a Friday and changed our lives forever.
New album.
Fucking album!
He's very, very excited.
How do I get it? Why is it only in the British fucking store? What is happening? Do you see this list? Do you see this camera? There's a video for every song.
Like a music video?
Fucking shit!
While the promotion for this album really didn't hit us till about 2014, it definitely still made an impact in 2013. The Drunk in Love music video is very much a work of art. I too want to gallivant across the beach at night. This era took Beyonce from an R&B star to the queen bee that we know today, and that's what makes this album so untouchable. It took Beyonce dropping it on a Friday for the entire music industry to be like, huh, I think we all should drop on Fridays. This era was so huge. There were I Woke Up Like This t-shirts at Rue 21, a middle school girl's dreamland. And let's not forget that people had a problem with Beyonce saying bow down bitches when Beyonce first came out, and she was just simply trying to tell them what to do. There's something about 7-Eleven that makes me want to go outside and have the time of my life.
Shoot it sideways, smack it in the air. Legs move it side to side, smack it in the air.
We used to have fun. A moody, more alternative version of R&B also started becoming popular, especially on SoundCloud. And one artist that not only had his come up from that era, but also kind of became the face of alternative R&B was The Weeknd. He released Trilogy in 2012, which were mixtapes he had on SoundCloud, and then came out with his debut album Kissland in 2013. There weren't any serious hits on Kissland, but we have to thank those before us because he would come back with a vengeance in 2015, but we'll talk about that later. Like I said, trap music and R&B and rap was just starting to take off in popularity, so we're gonna hold off on that for now. That year was also the debut of the most iconic pop star of our time, Ariana Grande. Yours Truly was a perfect blend of 90s R&B and doo-wop inspired pop music, and she was the new girl on the block taking the top spots on the charts. The Mariah comparisons ran through the roof during this era, and it was so much that they didn't even end up collaborating until very recently. And frankly, they should run that back and try again. Her debut was something so serious because we hadn't had a singer with church-like vocals since the 90s, and it came from a little girl with a half up, half down ponytail. An album that opens with this
I feel like my heart is stuck in
was always going to be set up for success. Baby I and Right There were really big songs that proved that Ariana was here to stay, but it was The Way that had everyone like, this little white girl has got a little bit of soul in her. She made a classic on her debut, but only true lovers of music enjoy loving it. However, I do not have blind spots when it comes to this album. I did not forget the pain and suffering I endured with Popular Song. Just stop. It would take Ariana a couple of albums to become the main pop girl of our generation, but that's beyond our time period here, so we're gonna move on. 2013 was also the year that Selena Gomez made her solo debut with Stars Dance. Although her real peak as an artist wouldn't come till 2015, there were still some hits here. I never personally enjoyed Come and Get It. I found it quite annoying, but I definitely do not feel that way about Slow Down.
I just wanna feel your body right next to mine all night long, baby, slow down the song.
That song makes you move in a way that you should do at least once in your 20s. This era wasn't super scandalous as it wasn't nearly as adult as her Disney pal Miley, but it still served a purpose because it showed everyone that she wasn't that little girl anymore. And finally, we cannot close out 2013 without talking about one of the biggest albums that year, Nothing Was the Same. You could not go anywhere without hearing Hold On, We're Going Home.
I got my eyes on you. You're everything that I see.
I really think this might be our generation's national anthem. It really did something to our spirit. This was a huge era for Drake. Not only did he perform at Kylie Jenner's 16th birthday party, I will never forget when Started From the Bottom was released. All the boys in my class were yelling the lyrics like they had felt seen. This was their life story. I was quite perplexed because we were all living in the suburbs. I was especially looking at Tom a little bit funny over here because I knew he lived in a 6-bedroom house. But that's the effect the album had on our youth. Hi everyone, I am just here, editing this video, and I'm sitting here sick to my stomach because I did not mention the alternative dark pop wave that really became popular in 2012 with Lana Del Rey's Born to Die, and probably hit its peak in like 2013 with Lord's Pure Heroin, and the impact that these two albums, and especially Royals, had on our youth. And like, frankly, that was just like a time period that I'm so sick that I just didn't mention. So please don't stone me. There was just a lot of information to cover, and it just completely like went over my head. So really sick for this. Like, I know, but at least I realized my mistake. So just wanted to say that. Part 2. 2014 to 2016. I would say that 2014 is a very important year of music for us because it was the true shift that the new kids on the block, Gen Z, actively remembers all of these releases and how much of an impact it had on our lives. These songs, albums, and collaborations that were released that year truly raised us and turned us into the people we are today. There was a definite continuation of the EDM sounds of 2011 and 2012 going into 2014. It was pretty common for popular DJs and main pop girls to collaborate, and when that would happen, no one was safe. I cannot discuss 2014 without talking about Break Free by Ariana Grande and Zedd.
I only wanna die alive, never by the hands of a broken heart.
I remember seeing this music video in middle school and thinking this is the most genius concept on the planet. This song was everywhere from the radio to commercials. Ari had a true hit on her hands. Zedd had a couple more hits that had us jumping up and down like Clarity. This is one of those songs that if you don't enjoy it on some level, I'm going to assume you're a very miserable person, and I hope you get better. That year was also a time where we got songs that sounded summery, like they're only meant to be played in the summertime. Summer of 2014 comes around and we get one of the most youthful, infectious songs of all time, Shower by Becky G.
Light me up inside like the 4th of July.
I think we can all agree that we eventually hated this song because it followed us absolutely everywhere, but I can appreciate it now. The music video was some sort of multiverse of madness because why is a pre-debut Doja Cat in the background? It's really crazy how time changes things. 2014 was a very important year of music because all of the pop girls were collaborating and some of the most influential songs of the decade were released that year. If we want to talk about music really stopping us in our tracks, then we have to discuss Feeling Myself by Beyonce and Nicki Minaj.
Cause I'm feeling myself, jack off. If you think about me when he wax off, wax on.
When Beyonce said world stop, she very much meant that. This collaboration was a moment in time that can't ever be replicated because the impact it had will never be matched. You cannot go on Instagram without seeing world stop and carry on posts or memes involving the song.
Male or female, it make no difference, I stop the world. World stop. Carry on.
I still have beef with them though because we still do not have the music video at our access. What do you have to gain from not giving the general public that music video? Title, Your Day Will Come. Speaking of the music video, it really is one of my favorite videos of all time. The girls just look like they were having a good time. You can tell exactly what year it is just by looking at this music video. It's 2014 culture to a T. Like Beyonce's jersey dress. You were not an it girl if you did not own a jersey dress. If you did not pull up to the function or the party in a jersey dress and some Timberlands, you might as well have stayed home. 2014 is also the year of the Ariana Grande to kind of main pop girl pipeline. Hits upon hits came from the My Everything era, and I know y'all like to hate on it saying it's just a playlist. Well, it's a playlist full of fun. Problem with Iggy Azalea was the summer bop that had middle school me listening to it in school and walking to the beat in class. But the cultural impact of the biggest collaboration that year needs to go down in history. Who would have thought that a song with Nicki, Ariana, and Jessie J would raise a generation? People like to refer to this as the loudest song to ever exist, and I would have to agree, but I'm gonna blast it on high every single time. It was clear that we were going for an upbeat, girly vibe for pop music in 2014 because all of the albums released that year were just non-stop good times. One of the biggest albums to completely overtake that year and probably contributed to the Stan Wars of today is 1989 by Taylor Swift.
You got that daydream look in your eye.
Oh, you really just had to be there when this dropped. This was for sure the start to Taylor's reign, not just on pop music, but the entire damn industry. Blank Space and Style are objectively one of the best pop songs to exist in the past 10 years. However, the impact of Shake It Off is something I don't think could be repeated again because we don't get antics like this.
But I keep cruising, can't stop, won't stop moving.
Why she went from women twerking to being a ballerina all in the same music video, I'm still quite confused about. And how could we forget about Bad Blood and not just the star-studded music video and her beef with Katy Perry saying she sabotaged her tour, but also the random Drake commercial featuring the song?
Now we got problems, and I don't think we can solve them.
I don't know, there's something so comical about 2014. Dark Horse by Katy Perry was one of the biggest songs that year. Although it came out in 2013, it really hit its peak the following year. The music video had an Egyptian theme to it, which caused a lot of backlash, so much so that it had to be digitally edited after a petition of thousands signed for it to be taken down. And on top of that, people used this video as proof of her induction into the Illuminati. I feel like a celebrity accused of being in the Illuminati was some sort of rite of passage back then because it happened so often. The song itself, however, I still play to this day. Even Miss Katy was getting into the trap era of things. We cherish this song. But one of the most influential albums to come out that year, and not just a staple in pop culture, but is the blueprint for modern female rap, Nicki Minaj's Pink Print. This era was light years ahead of her previous ones as she went back to her roots of making a rap album at its core with a sprinkle of pop and dancehall to make one of the most iconic albums of the 2010s. The second single, Anaconda, broke records for its music video, with it having 20 million views in the first 24 hours. Rightfully so.
Boy, toy named Troy used to live in Detroit.
That whole video is forever burned into my brain. I sometimes have daytime visions of it. Only and Truffle Butter had Drake and Lil Wayne featured on both songs. I like Only slightly better because it has this.
I blow your face off. I mean, then I take off.
I do have beef with the people though because The Night Is Still Young peaked at 31. Do we not like to have fun? That's fine. We got the amazing collaboration between her and Ari, Get On Your Knees.
Get on your knees, get on your knees. knees, get on your knees.
This album is full of so many gems for summertime, like By a Heart, Win Again, and Want Some More. But what do y'all know about Trini Them Girls?
Rich them girls, them I pop the pum pum, them I wind up them waist, them I pop the pum pum.
I could go on and on talking about this album, but we have to move on. 2014 would most likely not exist without the debut of Miss Iggy Azalea. Fancy comes out and it rules the charts and all the H&M stores in the country.
I'm so fancy. You already know.
That is still one of the catchiest songs to ever exist. Iggy also featured on Problem with Ariana Grande, which went number 2, but only because Fancy by Iggy took the top spot. Say what you want about her, Iggy was the it girl of 2014. My personal favorite, however, will always be Work. It really went up at the functions.
I've been working on my shit. Now get this work.
2014 was also the year that a lot of songs, specifically rap and R&B songs, having this very specific trap sounds that sounded kind of nostalgic but almost futuristic at the same time. So I'm gonna call this the turned era of 2014. And I think y'all know which sound I'm referring to.
Don't tell them, you ain't need, don't tell them, don't tell them, you ain't even gotta tell them, don't tell them.
I wonder if all of these songs had the same producer, because why did they all have the exact same vibe? I'm not complaining because it made for a very fun summer that year. One song that completely took over that year and will always take me back to that time is Somebody.
I wanna take shots with somebody. Shots.
Jeremiah was very important to the mid-tempo R&B songs of the mid-2010s because when Planes was released, none of us were okay.
Tell her be free, baby, spread your wings, get your legs in the sky like a plane, let me guide that, I'm the pilot.
If you're around my age or older, then you remember a little app called Flipagram. If you know, you know. And I believe we all use this song in the background of our Flipagram videos, especially when it was someone's birthday. But the most iconic song to come out of this era was for sure 2 On by Queen Tinashe.
If you ain't making, you ain't making no noise. Get ready to turn up with the big boys.
We are very much Tinashe stans over here. I can recognize that song from the first 0.25 seconds of it. That's how impactful it was. Tinashe had a couple of other semi-hits that year, like All Hands on Deck. This is an unpopular opinion. All Hands on Deck is a very annoying song. I'm sorry, I don't like it.
All hands on deck.
She collaborated that year with Ty Dolla $ign and Charli XCX, who was also having a really big year with her song Boom Clap, thanks to the Fault in Our Stars movie. The 3 of them came together for Drop That Kitty.
You like what I'm doing? Drop that kitty down low.
I feel like everyone collectively just doesn't remember this collaboration happening, because there have been multiple times where people online have never seen this song a day in their life and are like, when did Charli and Tinashe collaborate? 2014 would also begin Sia's reign on pop radio, and her biggest hit that year was Chandelier. This song was like the plague. You couldn't escape it even if you tried. Maddie Ziegler from Dance Mom starred in the video, which cemented her into a level of stardom outside of the dance and TV world. Closing out 2014, I have to discuss one of the most annoying songs to ever exist, and I still have PTSD from, Happy by Pharrell.
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
Let's just move on because I can't take it. In 2015, there was an app that was hugely popular called Musical.ly that every teenager used, including me. As more time went on, we kind of referred to it as the TikTok before TikTok, but I wouldn't say that's applicable anymore. But it still made a huge impact on pop culture because I would say this app's popularity aided in songs being specifically made for dances. And one of the biggest songs to come out of this era was Watch Me by Silento.
Now watch me whip, now watch me nay-nay. Now watch me whip, watch me nay-nay.
You can call me a hater, but I never liked this song. I did not partake in the festivities. It always gave me this weird tingly feeling in my ear. My personal favorite to come out of that era was Hit the Quan.
Sneaks with a designer belt. Please watch your step, cause I'm feeling myself.
Wow, we were really just doing anything, and I absolutely loved it. We cannot forget about that one cheerleader song.
So I think that I found myself a cheerleader.
I just love how random songs were back then. That year, the biggest erotica movie ever was released, 50 Shades of Grey. And the biggest song to come from that soundtrack was Earned It by The Weeknd. This song ruled the pop radio. You could not run, you could not hide. And to this day, it still holds up pretty well. Ellie Goulding's Love Me Like You Do also fully took over the radio that year, adding yet another huge hit for her. 2015 was a true start of trap music and R&B and rap being at the forefront of popular music. The songs and albums we got from this time are truly masterpieces and deserve many awards. And one of the most prominent ones from that era was Trap Soul by Bryson Tiller.
I get in my feelings, yeah. I start reminiscing, yeah. Next time around, fuck, I want it to be different, yeah.
I had no business listening to this song when it came out, but I was not gonna miss out on music excellence. Trap Soul was incredibly ahead of its time with its dark and rich trap production, and this sound would soon be the standard of R&B music for the following years and would cement Bryson as one of the next heads of R&B. Don't was the biggest single to come from this album, and rightfully so. It is a classic.
Girl, that man didn't show any ever. Do all I can just to show you you're special.
Exchange and Let 'Em Know were the next biggest singles from this album, and Let 'Em Know is the superior song.
Right now, you are now tuned in, girl.
Don't argue with me, you know I'm right. But the trap album of that summer was for sure Shrem Life by Ray Shremmerd.
You just got cash, blow some out, blow some out.
This album was just hit after hit with absolute bangers with a more gritty southern feel to its trap sound. No Flex Zone, No Type, Throw Some More, This Could Be Us, and Come Get Her were the singles released, and they had a huge impact on rap that year. The amount of times I would be walking down the school hallway and I would hear someone say, "I ain't got no type," we all knew what time it was. 2015 would not be 2015 without the commercial debut of an artist that ruled that year, Fetty Wap. He released the iconic summer banger Trap Queen.
And I get ride with my baby. I'll be in the kitchen cooking pies with my baby.
While I do appreciate this song, I've always liked 679 just a little bit better. Rihanna also had a huge trap hit that year with Better Have My Money.
I call a shot. Like blah, blah, blah.
The fact that she put this out because her accountant was stealing her money and almost made her go bankrupt, and now she's one of the richest celebrities on the planet. Icon behavior. But one song that will forever take me back to that time period is The Hills by The Weeknd. This song was a more melancholy trap R&B song compared to most that year, but it's still one of the best to come from that time. Beauty Behind the Madness would be the start to The Weeknd's reign on music, as it spanned multiple hits with completely different sounds. The most jarring was I Can't Feel My Face.
I can feel my face when I'm with you, but I love it.
I didn't appreciate this song at the time because I was hearing it way too many times, but it really stood the test of time. But I would put Tell Your Friends in the top 3, and it's not number 2 or 3. Switching gears a little bit, 2015 was also the year that a bunch of the newer pop girls were all debuting all at the same time. And because of that, I thought some of them were the same person. It's not a drag, just an observation. That year, Alessia Cara debuted with her debut single Here, which was a mid-tempo R&B infused pop song all about being at a party where you don't know anyone and everyone else seems to be having a good time but you. Well, Miss Ma'am, if you weren't enjoying yourself, you could have just gone home. Here was a bit of a sleeper hit, so it really didn't catch on till much later, right around the time of her debut album, Know It All. Here, Scars to Your Beautiful and Wild Things were all released as singles and were on rotation constantly on the radio. Another pop girl to make her commercial debut that year was Hailee Steinfeld with Love Myself. I would say that radio stations were at its peak during this era because it was playing the same 5 or 6 of these girls, but it made for a good listening experience. BB Rexa and Rita Ora also had their commercial debuts that year, but two of the biggest debuts to come from this time was Halsey and Meghan Trainor. Halsey came out with Badlands, her debut album, with the hits Closer and Castle, but she would really become a force in 2016, so we'll move on. Meghan Trainor shakes up the industry with her debut single All About That Bass in 2014.
I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
Which led into the many hits from her debut album title. The album was a doo-wop retro-inspired album that had an old school feel with a modern twist. The singles All About That Bass, Lips Are Movin', Dear Future Husband, and Like I'm Going to Lose You made the album a huge success, adding her to the list of the new pop girls of 2015. That year, Selena Gomez released Revival, which took her to a full adult pop star with its more sensual appeal for her image. This album was an electro pop record, but with a more toned down production to it, which is what pop music was starting to sound like. She had the huge hits Good For You with A$AP Rocky, Same Old Love, Hands to Myself, and Kill 'Em With Kindness to worldwide success. It was after this that Selena would kind of become a radio darling, as her songs were always being played on there and topping the charts, and that reign would last for the next coming years. 2015 was also the release of the biggest album that year and one of the best-selling albums of all time, 25 by Adele. This album was hugely anticipated because she went radio silent since 21, and the people were wondering, where's the music? She releases Hello as the debut single to begin the era, and it was a worldwide success, selling over 1 million copies in the first week and was #1 on the charts for 10 weeks. She released When We Were Young, Send My Love, and Water Under the Bridge as the lead singles.
If you're gonna let me down gently, don't pretend that you don't want me.
Send My Love was a more upbeat adult contemporary song, which was a very big shift from her normal mid-tempo, slower pop songs and ballads. 21 will always be top tier to me, but 25 was most definitely that girl. Between 2015 and 2016, a new variation of EDM and pop music was becoming popular that sounded kind of summery, but also very annoying. So I'm going to refer to this as, you know, the tropical house EDM era of 2015.
Why am I
And one of the biggest reasons we went through this little phase in music was Justin Bieber. He releases his highly anticipated album Purpose in 2015, and radio stations were never the same again. He completely ambushed my freshman year of high school with What Do You Mean?
What do you mean?
And I will never forgive him for it. I do have a special place in my heart for Sorry though. I would say Purpose is my third favorite album from him. Journals will always remain #1. But the deep cuts on this album find it fighting for that #2 spot. No Pressure is one of the best songs in his discography, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. A song that very much gave that summer vibe but with a more rock feel was Cool for the Summer by Demi Lovato. This was a complete rebrand for Demi into a more sexier image with a different edge for her music. I used to play this game called Episode in high school, and they had a Demi Lovato story on it, and they would always use this song in the background of it. Because I played it so much, I eventually hated this song, and I haven't listened to it since 2016. Going into 2016, this tropical house sound was really gaining momentum, and one of the biggest songs that year with this sound was Closer by the Chainsmokers and Halsey. I really don't want to talk about this song because I still get hives from it, so we're gonna move on. Another aspect of 2016 that was honestly a fever dream was the music that filled the summertime. 2016 was the true heyday of trap music and R&B and rap, and is widely known as the best year of music for summer that we refer to as Summer 2K16. There is a reason that the people are always like, I want this summer to give Summer 2016, and it's because the music was just on a whole nother level. One song that completely captures that time period as a whole is Caroline by Amine.
Things, fine as hell, thick as fuck, oh my god.
We all knew where we were when this song dropped. I really feel it just releases dopamine in the air because I've never once met someone that was unhappy while listening to this song. That summer was also the year of Lil Yachty's come up in the industry, and one of the most recognizable songs with him on it was Broccoli.
Hey lil' mama, would you like to be my sunshine?
This really was the last true era of fun, actually. The albums we got that year with this sound is so iconic that I would refer to them as Gen Z anthems. You know we can't go on without talking about The Coloring Book by Chance the Rapper.
One more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dreadhead.
It is physically impossible to sit still when that song is playing. The Coloring Book was really ahead of its time for infusing trap production into a mainly gospel album, creating a body of work that is incredibly timeless. He managed to get Justin Bieber, Future, and Lil Wayne all on the same album. Oh, okay. But the true album of that summer definitely goes to The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. This era caused so much controversy because him and Kim were beefing with Taylor Swift, which would last for the next couple of years. However, the music was still jumping. I remember what exactly I was doing and what I was wearing when Father Stretch My Hands Part 1 came out.
Beautiful morning, yeah, the sun in my morning, babe.
2016 was especially fun because we got yet another viral dance challenge, but this time it was from Black Beatles by Ray Shremmerd, and it gave us the Mannequin Challenge.
That girl is a real crowd, please. Small world, all her friends know of me.
Besides the summer music, 2016 was also a really big year of a lot of iconic albums all being released at the same time. The year prior, Zayn officially left One Direction and had teen girls all across the globe bawling their eyes out in their room. But from that, he released his debut album Mind of Mine, with Pillow Talk being the lead single.
So we'll put something neighbors in the place that feels the tears.
To this day, I still love this music video. The album would go on to international success, going multi-platinum on the charts and in my home. I listen to Fool For You every single time I'm driving at night. It was made for that. That year was also the release of Shawn Mendes' second album, Illuminate. He made his debut in 2015 with Handwritten, but it was this album that took him to being the new teen heartthrob of the late 2010s. You could not escape this man and his hits. The radio was nothing but Sia and Shawn Mendes. Treat You Better, Mercy, and There's Nothing Holding Me Back topped the charts for weeks.
I've been shaking, I love it when you go crazy.
I would say at the time that Shawn Mendes was our generation's Jesse McCartney. Dangerous Woman was also released that year, which was Ariana's shift into a more sexier and mature image, having a lot more songs on the album. While this album wasn't the shift to her being the acclaimed artist she is today, it's still one of the biggest highlights of 2016. Into You and Dangerous Woman were released as singles, but the collab with her and Nicki Side to Side falls into the Song of Summer category. The deep cuts on this album are some of the best in her discography. I don't care what any of y'all say, I want awards for Leave Me Lonely. And the fact that we didn't get Step On Up on streaming platforms until very recently is weird behavior, and I'm always going to remember that. 2016 marked the shift that The Weeknd took from his more traditional dark R&B sound to a more pop sound with Starboy. I feel like most people despise this album because it was the one that made him do pop, but I'm not one of them. The title track Starboy became one of his biggest hits up to that point with its dark electro pop sound. He worked with Daft Punk again for the disco pop track I Feel It Coming, which also reached critical and commercial success, cementing his space as one of the most prominent male artists in pop music. The list of albums continues because we also got Bruno's highly anticipated album 24K Magic, which was a complete 180 from him from his previous works. The album had elements of 70s soul and funk on it that made it perfect for the fun year of 2016. He released 24K Magic as the first single.
Guess who's back again?
And it became the low-key go-to song for family cookouts. He really did his thing with this album because he released That's What I Like and Versace on the Floor as the following singles, making the era a huge success. This was Bruno's biggest era yet, as it won him 6 Grammys at the 2018 Grammys. The people were angry when this happened, but I wasn't. Do we not award excellence? This era also lasted for 2 years, ending in 2018 with the remix of Finesse featuring Cardi B, the It Girl of 2017.
Drop top Porsche, rollie on my wrist, diamonds up and down my chain.
This is the only version of the song I listened to. I don't know what the original one is. 2016 was another huge year for Drake as he released his album Views to worldwide success and gave us some of the most recognizable songs of the decade. The impact of Hotline Bling in society needs to be taught in history class.
Call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need my love.
This was a true hit. Kids and adults were absolutely obsessed with this song. He also released One Dance, which would mark Drake's venture into doing Afrobeats inspired songs, which was also a really big hit that year. I would say this album is a summer album through and through. Certain songs are meant for the daytime and other songs are meant for summer late night drives. One of the most important albums to come out that year without a doubt was Anti by Rihanna. This album was her most cohesive and experimental and was incredibly ahead of its time, pulling sounds from 70s neo soul infused with trap to create a body of work that is incredibly timeless. She released Needed Me, Love on the Brain, and Kiss It Better as the album's singles, all to huge success. But the song Work with Drake fully took over that year, breaking streaming records at the time. I'm not gonna lie, I heard this song way too many times that I'm probably never going to listen to it ever again, so I support it from a distance. Anti is Rihanna's best album to date, and all we can do is cherish it until she decides to grace us with another body of work whenever she feels like it. And finally, we cannot close out 2016 without talking about the most influential and critically acclaimed album that year, Lemonade by Beyonce. This album came after the controversy of Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce and the whole elevator debacle where Solange beat his ass. And this was her way of storytelling her thoughts and her emotions during it. Lemonade was Beyonce's most vulnerable and heartfelt album up to that point, and you can really see the shift within the album, being heartbroken and angry in the beginning to the end of it, finally forgiving and moving forward, but being very cautious. I mean, she did say, if you try this shit again, you gonna lose your wife. So I wouldn't mess with her. The most impactful song from this era was definitely Formation. I still watch her performance at the Super Bowl for this song that everyone forgot Coldplay was headlining because all we remember is Bruno and Beyonce. And yes, I know the choreography like the back of my hand. I would put Lemonade at number 3 in her discography because I'm a fun girl, so Renaissance and Self-Titled are my go-tos for summertime. B-Day, however, shifts from 4 to 3 depending on my mood. Part 3, 2017 to 2019. In 2017, the vibes of 2016 were kind of in the air, but it had a more bright feeling to some of the songs. That year, we got what I consider Song of the Summer, Wild Thoughts with Rihanna, Bryson Tiller, and DJ Khaled.
I wanna be a baby, baby, baby. Spinning in his red just like he came from Maytag.
That would be one of the last few sightings of Rihanna in music, so we hold this song very near and dear. Another song with a very intense summer feeling to it was Sorry Not Sorry by Demi Lovato. And before we move on, We Are Tell Me You Love Me stands over here. It is her best album. Drake also had his fair share of summer songs like Fake Love. The tropical house sounds of 2016 continued into 2017, except this time they were so much more painful. You could not go anywhere without hearing Stay by Alessia Cara.
All you have to do is stay a minute, just take your time.
Zed, you will pay for your crimes for this. Not all of them were bad. It Ain't Me by Selena Gomez and Kygo was just mellow enough for me to be able to survive that era. 2017 was also a year that a bunch of Latin and reggaeton songs were becoming incredibly popular. Justin Bieber had a little hit of his own. He was featured on Daddy Yankee and Luis Fonsi's song Despacito. Don't you just miss 2017? And how could we forget Mi Gente with J Balvin and Beyonce? This is one of those songs that I want to experience in a music festival setting, preferably with Beyonce in front of me. But the biggest Latin-inspired song and was an iconic moment in time, I fear, from that era was Havana by Camila Cabello.
Half of my heart is in Havana, ooh, nah, nah.
I still don't think I fully healed from this song's reign on the charts because I'm afraid it's gonna spin the block again and randomly show up. Camila would have her little reign on pop radio, but that's more in 2018, so we're gonna move on. By 2017, rap had pretty much become the most popular genre of music, and it was definitely shown through what was the most top charting songs and albums for the rest of the decade. And one of the biggest rap songs that year was Bad and Bougie by Migos.
Bad and bougie, bad. Cooking up dope with a Uzi.
I don't want to get sad all over again. There was really just something so flavorful about the rap songs that year because we also got Mask Off by Future. We really won with music here. I don't think we appreciated it enough at the time. I know I didn't. One of the biggest rap albums that year and probably one of the best albums of the late 2010s was Damn by Kendrick Lamar. He starts this era with a bang with the iconic lead single Humble.
Right stroke, put a baby in a spiral. Soprano C, we like to keep it on the high note.
I consider this to be one of the staple songs of the late 2010s. But if I want to think of summer 2017, my mind will always go straight to Loyalty by him and Rihanna.
10-4, no switching sides, feel something wrong. You acting shifty, you don't vibe.
I'm not joking when I say we won in the 2010s. I feel very bad for the kids of today. They didn't get to experience this in real time. I also recently found out that this song samples Bruno's 24K Magic but backwards. This is a true example of what I mean when I say musical genius. 2017 was also very memorable because that was the year of the official rise of Miss Billie Eilish. She released her EP Don't Smile at Me that year and it became incredibly popular in such a short amount of time. I remember watching her come up all in real time. One day she had like 600,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and then the next she had like 30 million. You can't make this up. This was one of the craziest come ups of all time. It seemed like it happened in a span of a second, and the people were out here calling her an industry plant as if her fans weren't spamming the YouTube comment section, begging for reactors on YouTube to listen to her EP. Don't piss me off. I was absolutely obsessed with this girl. When I was 16, all I listened to was her and Lana Del Rey, and best believe I made a personality trait out of it. The EP was a significant turning point in pop music because the success of it led to genres like bedroom pop becoming very popular among the later pop girls to emerge in the late 2010s and even early 2020s. My go-to song from this project will always be My Boy, But Do the People Love Bitches Broken Hearts Like I Do? You can pretend you don't miss me. You can pretend you don't care. That year, SZA made her impact with her debut album Control, and she was the new it girl of alternative R&B. Everyone and their mothers were absolutely obsessed with this album. You couldn't meet one person that wasn't constantly streaming it. The singles Drew Barrymore, Love Galore with Travis Scott, The Weeknd, Broken Clocks, and Garden made the album a huge success. And they all went platinum in the US. Might I suggest you don't fuck with my sis, she had the numbers. The album was incredibly influential as it set the standard for the direction R&B was taking in the late 2010s with a more alt neo soul sound. SZA would become an incredible force in music by the 2020s, but that's beyond our timeline, so we have to move on. Another artist to make their debut that year was Khalid with American Teen. This was another very quick come up. He was just a random teen from Texas minding his own business. Then next thing you know, his songs are going multi-platinum on the charts. He ruled the radio with his hit Location.
Send me your location, let's ride the vibration.
And we thank him for his service. But Young, Dumb, and Broke really spoke to my spirit at the time. It really seemed like in 2017, the men of the industry decided to get up off their ass and work because not only did they put crack in their albums, they were taking the top spots on the charts. We have to talk about Post Malone's reign that year with Beer Bongs and Bentleys. Rockstar and Psycho were the biggest singles from the album, dominating for weeks. But the critics hated these songs. They really went in on this man. The public either didn't agree or they were being forced to listen to these songs because they both ended up going diamond, which is absolutely crazy. We cannot move on without talking about the official debut of Harry Styles. When I say this man came and everyone parted like the Red Sea, I mean that. He released the single Sign of the Times. And the industry has not healed since then. The album was an incredible success, but he would really turn shit upside down in 2019, so let's move on. We have to discuss probably the biggest album takeover that year, and partly the reason as to why I never left my home, Divide by Ed Sheeran.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do.
To say he ruled 2017 would absolutely be an understatement. I had to go through great lengths to escape this man's terror of hits. Ed Sheeran is one of those people that quite literally confuses me because I've never met one person in real life that was a really big fan of his, and yet he's constantly breaking streaming records. Like Perfect and Shape of You both went 13 times platinum. Who does that? The talent is very much there. I am not a hater. I just want my teenage hood back without any scars. 2017 was a very important year because we got the debut of one of the main pop girls of today, Dua Lipa.
I got no rules, I count 'em.
I still get chills when I hear that song, and not in a good way. She released her debut album Dua Lipa and it was a huge success. I would have hoped it would be because she damn near released the whole track list as singles. This was also the era of the bullying of Dua Lipa. It's all good though, she came back swinging in 2020, but again, that's beyond our timeline. I have a whole video deep diving into Dua Lipa's career, so go watch that to get into her messy but entertaining rise in the pop ranks. Speaking of pop girls, Taylor released her comeback album, Reputation, that year. This album came after the public feud between her, Kanye, and Kim, and she said, "I'm about to ruin y'all's life." Look What You Made Me Do was released as the first single. I'm not gonna lie, I still don't like this song, but I appreciate the purpose of it. While this album wasn't as wildly successful as 1989, it was still probably the biggest album of 2017, and there were still some bops here. Endgame is top 3 on the album, and you can't tell me anything else.
Big reputation, big reputation. Ooh, you and me, we got big reputation.
What can I say? I love a good beat. 2017 is also the year of the official comeback of Kesha with her album Rainbow. I also wanted to add in that this album came after her lengthy legal battle with Dr. Luke, as she was trying to get out of her contract with his label, but the decision was not in her favor. So she took those experiences and created the most beautiful and vulnerable body of work in her discography. She released Praying as the lead single and had 16-year-old me crying in my room for a week, praying that the pain she had went to Dr. Luke. The rest of the singles didn't perform as well as Praying, and I'm quite confused about it. They were equally as good. Rainbow is my favorite album by Kesha, so if you've not listened to it, do yourself a favor and immerse yourself in the greatness. You will levitate. Closing out 2017, we have to talk about the debut of an artist that shook up the industry and forever changed the future landscape of female rap, Cardi B. She releases her iconic debut single, Bodak Yellow.
I be in and out them banks so much I know they tired of me.
And that would be the first of many hits she would have the following year for her album Invasion of Privacy. Going into 2018, she released Bartier Cardi, Be Careful, I Like It, and Ring with Kehlani, all to worldwide success.
You can't slip a line no more.
Ring is top 5 on the album for me. What a song. The album was a huge critical and commercial success, breaking records for a rap album and winning Best Rap Album at the 2019 Grammys. She was also featured on a huge hit with G-Eazy, No Limit. Her success would be a very big shift into the world of female rap for the next coming years, which we'll get into later. The songs of 2018 weren't super memorable. They were either most of the songs from late 2017 or some of them that were just excruciatingly painful. I just want to know the reason for this. That year, Halsey had probably the biggest hit of her career, Without Me. That song is especially iconic because G-Eazy not only played in her face by cheating on her, but she found out right before their performance together of their song Him and I, which was about their love. But she got her lick back because the song went #1 and G-Eazy was nowhere to be found. 2018 was also the mini solo debut of Normani. Yeah, we stand Normani over here. She collabed with Khalid on Love Lies, which became her first top 10 hit, going multi-platinum. She also put out her EP Normani and Calvin Harris, and it didn't do serious numbers, but we were building the groundwork for success, so it's fine. I need the people to get up and realize she has a gem here with Slow Down.
Everybody slow down. Everybody slow down. Everybody be on a low down.
But the most important song of 2018 was for sure All the Stars with Kendrick and SZA. How this song manages to make me cry and feel joy at the same time is some kind of superpower. This song came from the soundtrack of the Black Panther movie, but because it was such a big song, most people think of it as a song just all on its own. But the way it played right at the end of the movie, ooh, they knew what they were doing. The albums of 2018, however, I feel very strongly about. We won here. August of 2018, main pop girl Ariana Grande changes lives with her album Sweetener and had me dancing and crying. I'm not gonna get into the album too much here because I have a whole video deep diving into the entire Sweetener era, so go watch that to get more into it. Sweetener was the official switch to Ariana being the acclaimed artist she is today, because I feel like prior to this album, most of the general public was okay with her, but after this album dropped, most of the population now became Ariana stans. Fellow Fifth Harmony member Camila Cabello also made her debut with Camila Self-Titled. She did put out a couple of singles prior to the actual rollout of her album back in 2017, and although I look at her sideways, I'm not gonna lie, Crying in the Club still has me moving to this day. She went full radio takeover with this album because not only was Havana still ruling the charts, but her other singles were practically inescapable.
Just like nicotine, heroin, morphine.
I would say at this point, her and Selena were taking up the entire daytime slots on radio because I didn't hear anyone else. She Loves Control was the summer song that 17-year-old me played way too much, and my mom no longer let me play music in the house. Like I said before, 2017 and 2018 was the true shift to rapping becoming the main genre in music, so the albums we got during this time were truly moments in time. Travis Scott drops his album Astroworld, ruling 2018. You could not meet one person that wasn't absolutely obsessed with this album. It was kind of insane. He released the single Sicko Mode with Drake.
Was off the Remy, had up at post. Had to hit my old town to duck the news.
This song was an absolute force, going #1 and spending 30 weeks in the top 10. Block parties went absolutely stupid because of this song. Another huge rap album that year was Culture 2 by Migos. While they had huge hits like Walk It, Talk It, and Stir Fry, it was one specific song that practically unleashed World War III.
Motorsport, put that thing in sports. Shot it bad, pop it like a court.
This was the true start to the Nicki and Cardi beef that still lasts to this day. Cardi was a new girl on the block, and we can't possibly have two successful female artists at the same time. No. So what does everyone do? Pit them against each other so they have them fighting in front of us. To this day, people debate as to whose verse on the song is better, and these are the only parts of the song I listen to. Once the verses are over, I skip the song. Moving on, we have to get into the biggest album of 2018, Scorpion by Drake. This was the official era where Drake was the industry. The industry was Drake. He was untouchable, and most people refer to this as the end of the best of Drake. He had hits upon hits here like God's Plan.
I don't wanna die for them to miss me. Yes, I see the things that they wishing on me.
But the summer anthems In My Feelings and Nice for What broke streaming records on the day of their release. You really just had to be there and absorb the excellence in the air. This was also his longest album with side A and side B, with side A being more summer anthems and side B well, sad Drake. But we still enjoyed every single minute of it, especially Jaded. I consider it a staple nighttime song. We just have to sit and appreciate this album because then it just gets a little wonky from here. Closing out 2018, one of the biggest shifts that year was the popularization of K-pop in the Western market. And the band that made huge waves and caused a craze that I hadn't seen since Justin Bieber was BTS. The boys came in with their perfect skin and their elaborate dance routines, and the girls went apeshit. They released the single Fake Love, which completely took over the charts and would be the start to the ARMY being one of the biggest fandoms in America. They got shit done for the boys. If there was an award they were nominated for, best believe they voted for them. If there was an important performance, they would be trending on Twitter for a week straight. You've got to respect the commitment. 2019 was an absolute show for music, and I mean that in a good way. We got some of the most well-known songs of the decade and also some random ones that charted for an excessive amount of time. So I'm gonna start with a song that completely ambushed my summer before college, Senorita.
I love it when you call me Senorita.
The people that were shipping Shawn Mendes and Camila since I Know What You Did Last Summer, I blame y'all for this. Now, I don't hate the song. I was perfectly fine with it when it came out, but if I were to hear it now, I'm running in the other direction. Speaking of another Fifth Harmony alum, we have to talk about Normani's solo big break, Motivation. This was a moment in time that I still remember every single detail of. She was the girl that everyone was waiting for, including celebrities. And you know, things take their time, but at least we're getting the album now. Moving on, probably the biggest song that year that everyone thought was some sort of Twitter joke at first, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
We had never heard of this kind of fusion before, trap and country. Oh, we were seated. When I say this song was a smash hit, I am not exaggerating. It broke the record for holding the #1 spot on the charts for 19 weeks straight. And keep in mind, this record was held for over 20 years by Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men back in 1995 with One Sweet Day. And it was all thanks to TikTok. The popularity of TikTok in 2019 going into 2020 would be a very big factor into the music and artists that would emerge in late 2019 and also lead to the biggest hits of 2020, which we'll get into later. 2019 was also the year of the Jonas Brothers' comeback with their song Sucker. Everyone went absolutely insane when this happened. It shot up to #1 on the charts and they absolutely milked the hell out of this song. I mean, it worked. The boys are still going on tour to this day. We also have to discuss the huge hit by Lizzo, Truth Hurts.
Why men great till they gotta be great? Don't text me and tell it straight to my face.
This song was a bit of an anomaly because it was released in 2017, but it didn't become popular till 2019. That was the power TikTok held on the industry. She was performing this song absolutely everywhere and it was getting a bit much, but my favorite will always be at the 2019 BET Awards. We need spectacles like this again. 2018 and 2019 were the years that we got a whole new string of rap girls with hypersexualized images and branding, and I would probably credit this to the success of Cardi B from the previous year. We have to talk about the rise of the city girls in Sour Tea.
Her name is Sweetie, because you know what I thought her name was? Sour Tea. Oh my God.
Now, they had very different images to the general public, but they for sure represented the new wave of female rap, just making fun bops, going to the club, and getting your bag up. The City Girls released their EP Girl Code in 2018, but it was really the following year that they would take over. They released their singles Act Up and Twerk with Cardi B, and house college parties were never the same again. I would say a party was not a party if there weren't City Girl songs in the queue. Sweetie, on the other hand, debuted with Icy Girl in 2017, which was a more toned down song all about not paying attention to your haters and just being that girl. But she came back with a bang with the summer anthem My Type.
A rich nigga, 8-figure, that's my type. That's my type, nigga.
I don't know, I might consider this song a classic. But one of the biggest rap girls to have her come up during this era was Megan Thee Stallion. She releases her EP Tina Snow in 2018 with her first charting song Big Ol' Freak.
Baby, let me rub on you like a little love from you. My body addictive, it's driving them crazy. I think I gotta run from you.
To this day, that song hits like it came out yesterday. I love that song. I would put Big Ol' Freak at number 3, Neva is number 2, and Cognac Queen is the best song on the EP. But in 2019, she would really become a force with her EP Fever, especially the song Cash It with her and DaBaby.
Oh, you can't touch this, ayy. Try to rich shit, my money thick, ayy.
DaBaby was also having a really big year with his hit Suge, and this would be the start to her and him working together on a couple of songs. We really could have had an iconic duo with her and him putting out nothing but hits, but he had to go and be weird. Look at my lips, you're ruining it. Megan would become one of the front runners of rap in 2020, but again, that's beyond our timeline, so we have to move on. As far as albums go, we got a couple of really big ones that would be very impactful to the music going into the next decade. Ariana Grande had her biggest era yet with Thank You Next. This was the album that made her a top pop girl, and now everyone on the planet knew who she was. She had back-to-back hits with 7 Rings, Break Up With Your Girlfriend, and Thank You Next, which took over Twitter with the many memes. I do have a video ranking that entire album, so go watch that for some very correct song rankings. I don't care what any of y'all say. This was also the era that the blackfishing allegations were at an all-time high, and I mean, look at the material.
Like, bitch, that's my cookie, that's my juice, okay? Carry on.
But the music was still excellent. If 2019 was known for anything, it was the year of the Billie Eilish takeover with Where We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The single Bad Guy comes out and you can't run from it.
I seduce you that type. I'm the bad guy.
Duh.
The numbers Billie did on a debut album were absolutely insane. Bad Guy, Wish You Were Gay, and You Should See Me in a Crown go diamond, and the rest of the album songs go platinum. Who does that? I personally prefer Happier Than Ever, but this album had High School Me in such a chokehold that I would be listening to it during class. Why would I listen to what the teachers are saying? This album marked a new standard in pop music with the dark, moody aesthetic that would become very popular in the early 2020s and even now. We also have to talk about Harry Styles and his takeover with Fine Line. You really had to be there for this one. I cannot go one day without streaming the out of this album while speeding down the highway with my rose-colored sunglasses on. This was a huge era for Harry, lasting for 2 years, all of the singles going multi-platinum, and the teens that were once obsessed with him in 1D were now 20-somethings filling his stadiums with I love you Harry signs, and it was also very common for people to be getting proposed to at his concerts. And yes, I attended that concert and I cried my eyes out. But the most controversial album to come out that year was for sure Queen by Nicki Minaj. By the time this album dropped, the feud between her and Cardi was at an all-time high. They were constantly talking about each other on Instagram lives. There was Nicki's Queen radio show where she went on many rants. It was madness. Even my girls Little Mix got caught up in it, taking Nicki's side, and Cardi gagged them too. Nicki was tired. Anyone and everyone got the smoke, including 1-year-old Stormi. You really couldn't make this up. So because of this, that's really all we remember from the Queen era, but the album was still very good though. In the final half of 2019, we got music that would be very influential going into 2020, so I'm gonna start with The Box by Roddy Ricch. The song's success would leak into 2020, causing Justin Bieber of all people to beg his fans to stream his new song Yummy so that The Box doesn't block him from the #1 spot. We're just gonna forget that happened. But 2 of the most important songs to come out in late 2019 was Don't Start Now and Blinding Lights. These songs not only ruled the charts, but they single-handedly caused the 80s inspired music trend in 2020 that now all of a sudden everyone decided they wanted to do too. I do prefer Don't Start Now, but The Weeknd deserves his 10s for Blinding Lights. Kids, teens, and adults were all obsessed with this song. I spent my fall season in Canada that year, and best believe they support that man down. Closing out 2019, we have to discuss the emerging of one of the biggest pop stars of the 2020s, Doja Cat with Hot Pink. This album raised me during my freshman year of college, and the people weren't giving it the due diligence it deserved. I was out here trying to promote this album to everyone I knew, saying get into Doja Cat, and the people would be like, the Moo Girl? And I would be like, well, yes. The single Rules made moderate noise, especially on Twitter, but her breakthrough wouldn't come until 2020 with Say So. Again, the power of TikTok really came through here. Say So was absolutely everywhere, and it led to a feature from Nicki Minaj making it go #1. And then in early 2021, we got the Silhouette Challenge, causing her song Streets to blow up too. Looking back on it, 2020 was actually a pretty eventful year for music considering what was happening during that time. Hot Pink is my favorite album by Doja, and Scarlet and Planet Her tie for #2 depending on my mood that day. Anyways, that is the end of part 3 for music of the 2010s. I really had so much fun doing this series and just looking back on the music, and what a time it was. If you like this video, let me know by giving it a like and subscribe to this channel. That would help me out a lot actually. Also, check out some of my other videos. I think they're very much a good time, so please go enjoy yourselves. I really want to thank all of you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.